Welcome to the Lend Academy podcast, episode number 214. This is your host, Peter Renton, founder of Lend Academy and co-founder of the Lend It Fintech Conference. Today's episode is sponsored by Lend It Fintech USA, the world's largest fintech event dedicated to lending and digital banking. It's happening on May 13th and 14th, 2020 at the Javits Center in New York. Lending and banking are converging, and Lend It Fintech immerses you in the most important trends of the day. Meet the people who matter, learn from the experts, and get business done. Lend It Fintech, lending and banking connected. Go to lendit.com/USA to register. Today on the show, I'm delighted to welcome Safwan Shah. He is the CEO and founder of PayActiv. Now, PayActiv, I think, are a very interesting company. They're a mission-driven company, and we get into their mission in some depth in this show. But what it's all about is earned wage access. This is where workers can get access to the money, the income they have already earned. And PayActiv has a system. They work with employers to enable that, to make that happen. And Safwan talks about the early days of the company and how difficult it was to kind of get traction, and why it's suddenly becoming a hot topic. We also talk about the regulatory initiatives that they have taken and how the regulators feel about this. And we also look at the many other services they're offering to really providing a full suite of products to encourage financial wellness. It was a fascinating interview. I hope you enjoy the show. Welcome to the podcast, Safwan.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter, for inviting me.
My pleasure. So I'd like to get these things started by starting on background and sort of talking a little bit about what you've done in your career to date before you started PayActiv.
So, like most careers that are more than 20 years long, there are a lot of things one has done, but I'll just highlight a couple of things. Right before PayActiv, I wasn't doing anything. I'd taken some time off after the sale of my previous payments and fintech company called Infonox. And by training, I'm an engineer. I guess payments expert by experience. I've been in fintech since 99, 2000, almost 20 years. By education, my PhD was in aerospace engineering, and I shouldn't be judged on that. And my master's was in computer engineering, and my undergrad was in electrical engineering. Kind of reflects my confusion at that stage of my life. So that's sort of a summary of my background in engineering by training, basically. Okay.
So you're engineering by training, but you've decided to start this company that is, it's somewhat unique. And because I know you started it at a time where I don't think anybody else was really doing much in the way of of this sort of earned income access. But so tell us a little bit about what was the idea that led to the founding of PayActiv?
So to me, it was an idea that came during a phase in my life where I wasn't doing anything. So let's say I had a lot of time to think. And, when you have a lot of time to think, you do think about the human condition and what's going on. And one of the thoughts that kept occurring to me, and I'm talking 10 years ago, was that why is it that the richest country in the world has such a large pool of people living paycheck to paycheck? That term hadn't yet been coined. Mm-hmm. We were in the post-2009 timeframe, and I kept kind of wondering that what's going on here? What is the underlying issue here? And it is in that situation that this idea of PayActiv struck me. Because the question I ask is that why is the richest country in the world, why does it have so many lower income people cash strapped? And then finally dawned that it could be related to, of course, the divergence of wages and productivity, but that again wasn't very clear. Credit was getting tighter. And if you recall, 10 years ago, 9 years ago, 8 years ago, we've seen this sort of tightening of credit. And so when there is no credit and there's a growth of debit, I could see that one thing that the world had missed was the sort of timing of pay when it comes to how people are paid. To me, that was a big blind spot that nobody thought about, because most credit takes your income, expected income, as one of the big variables.
Mm-hmm.
However, many people during that pay period, during that 2-week pay period, were leaning on they could get money from payday lenders, online lenders, and many people were paying late fees and overdraft fees, and those statistics were coming out. So it suddenly dawned that we have missed one thing, which is the timing of pay. And the money is literally sitting there with the employers, and the employees at the same time, when they need $100 or $200, are absorbing overdraft deficits and late fees to make ends meet. So the answer was somehow unlock that money, which is stuck there, because it's not helping the employer per se in very low interest rate environments. So why don't we get that money unlocked? And that was the genesis of the idea.
Okay. So then, I mean, how big of a problem is this? Like, do you have any stats on the fact that workers don't get access to their pay? I mean, how much that really costs them on average?
So one can safely assume that when you're short of, $20, $50, $80, $100 between paychecks, and you are paycheck to paycheck, which means you do not have a buffer or savings, and you do not have credit. So a small deficit can lead to an overdraft. An overdraft typically is $35. The published stats in the US are $35 billion in fees are charged in overdrafts every year. So that's one number. Another number is the sort of payday lending industry. If you're kind of desperate, you end up leaning on a payday loan, which is $200, $300, has a high fee to it. That number in fees is about $6 to $7 billion a year. Late fees is another $15 billion a year.
Mm-hmm.
A low balance fee charged by banks is about $5-6 billion a year. When we aggregate these numbers, and the Center for Financial Services Innovation, CFSI, now called Financial Health Network, they published every year this data. And the number in 2018 was $173 billion in alternative financial services. And I've already related a few of those numbers, like overdrafts, etc. So now, on a working population of about 150 million people in the U.S., with more than 50% cash-strapped, financially stressed, paycheck to paycheck, we're really talking about 75 million people paying about $150 billion a year or more in various types of fees. That's a $2,000 per person per year loss of income, right? Or reduction in purchasing power, because if you are making $3,000-4,000 a month and one overdraft is $35, one late fee is $30, $40, $50, depending if it's your landlord who's charging you, it could be $60. That's a pretty large sum of money, and and the bills are always, as you know, Peter, they come every day. While paychecks are batch process, they come every 2 weeks or every month or every week. So this misalignment leads to serious reduction in purchasing power and accumulating of financial stress. So it's really about $200 a month, literally, going to waste.
Right. Now that's I've heard that many times. That's it's very expensive to be poor because you pay all those fees so anyway, I'm curious about the timing, because you started this company, it looks like, in 2012. And I know we've had you speak at Lendit a couple of times now, but it seems like this year, I know there's some regulatory things we'll talk about in a little bit, but it feels like in the last 12 months there's been a lot more attention paid to this space. And why do you think that is?
I think it takes time for the industry to realize, this is the way it is. Typically, you go slowly for a little while, and then suddenly people understand, and particularly in the case of PayActiv, because our model is business to business, and businesses are thoughtful buyers. There's consensus, there's discussion. So for the first 2-3 years, if I really look at the in hindsight, the history of PayActiv. We went live with our first customer, our first business in 2013. And I actually sat on the idea for 2 years before that, just thinking that how do we kind of navigate through the various behavioral and other challenges we might face when we bring a product like this. But I was convinced that businesses was the way to go to it. So when we started in 2013, it wasn't that, some business was looking for earned wage access. The term hadn't been coined. What they knew they were doing is they were giving advances to their employees who were in supposedly an emergency. And employers and HR would have programs to help their employees. And we arrived in that kind of market or environment with a particular customer, and the customer actually was in New Jersey. He kind of said, I bring money every week to give advances to my employees. This could be an interesting way for me to not do that.
Right.
So we said, okay, and that's how we started. And it wasn't easy. Peter, it took the next 2 years. We had, just a handful of businesses, various parts of the country, but all very sort of cutting edge, thoughtful, visionary HR leaders and payroll leaders who chose us.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So it was a long journey in the first 2-3 years. And somewhere around 2015, 2016, the New York Times wrote an article about us. And I remember that was kind of a watershed event in some ways. And then just a few weeks before that, I had spoken at Finovate,
mm-hmm.
One of the Fintech conferences, and we were awarded Best of Show. And suddenly people walked up to me and said, what is this? And next week, Barron's had an article about us. And Barron's doesn't target, it's a very specialized publication. And they kind of got to the bottom line that this is like a change in the velocity of money.
Right.
If money moves faster. And then, for the next, I would say 2016, 2017 were very thoughtful growth periods. And everybody was interested that what were we seeing in the data? And that time, Baton Rouge General Hospital was using us for a little while. And in 2017, we compiled all the data for about 20 odd companies over 18 months and shared it with some researchers at Harvard Kennedy School. And they analyzed the data, and boom, they discovered something which was very big. And that was that the employer that was offering this service they had reduced their turnover by 20, 30, 40%. And that was the eureka moment. It's good for the employer, and we knew it was good for the employee. But for the employer, suddenly there was a huge business case.
Right. That's really interesting. That is, as I say, it's a benefit that people really, really value. So let's dig in. I want to just find out about how the system works. You said you really are a business to business company. So just talk us through how your system works.
So we work through employers. So as we utilize already earned hours. So let's say there's a company, ABC Corp, which decides to deploy PayActiv as a financial wellness benefit. So we are a financial wellness benefit. And they offer it to their employees. So the employer offers it to their own employees. Our agreement is with the business. And there are 3 types of guardrails in it. First, we use the hours already worked. So it's not money that is not yet earned. It is earned money. And then the first guardrail is a portion of the earned money. So it could be 30, 40, 50, 60, 70% of already earned hours. So if you worked 50 hours, you can get 20 hours. So that's one guardrail, which is on how much of the money you've already earned you can access. The second guardrail is around the frequency of access. So, you can do it every day as long as you've earned it, you can do it. So what we have discovered over the last few years of doing this is that the need is more not ad hoc, but it's a need, it's a timely need. It's not like clockwork every day people need money. They need it once, twice, 3 times during a pay period, but it can occur in a random way. Imagine you're on a tightrope, which is 10 feet long. It's not, you don't know when exactly will you feel like you're about to, fall off. So life for cash-strapped, financially stressed people with no savings is like on a tightrope. So whenever you feel unstable, that's when you need money. So that's the second thing we provide. We provide them sufficient frequency of access, and it's 2, 3, 4 times, but they can get it. And we've removed this issue that every time they access, they have to pay a fee. It's not like that. It's more like Netflix. Mm-hmm. That once you've paid your $5 bi-weekly fee, you can use it multiple times. So that's another guardrail. And finally, the entire model is not just about accessing money. Very early on, we discovered that people, when you ask them why did they take 50% of their already earned wages, whether it's $100, $200, they said they needed to pay a bill, or they needed to deal with something, a car repair, a daycare expense. So what we did was we connected bill pay into our app. And we kind of broke it down into 4 or 5 things. First one was get. Get meant you can get money, you can take your hours, turn them into cash. So yeah, right. So we made time fungible, and you could apply that money and PayActiv would take care of it. We could pay all your bills. So we connected into the bill pay system just like a bank. Another thing we did was some people had bank accounts. Some people had prepaid cards. Some people had, different needs. Some even needed cash immediately. So we solved all of them. For somebody who had a bank account, we'll ACH the money same day, next day. For somebody who had a prepaid card, any card, Visa, MasterCard, debit card, we would instantly load money on it, so using Visa Direct and things like that. Mm-hmm. If somebody had, we also launched our own Visa card. So we are program managers of our own card. But we don't mandate you use one card or the other. Whatever method they want the access, the format they want it, we would move money, whether it's to a bank, to a card. And then a lot of people, Peter, no surprise, right? Don't even have bank accounts. The dilemma in the US these days is financial exclusion. So many people who can't maintain a bank account, for them, we did a deal with Walmart. And they just get a PIN number. They can go to a Walmart store and pick it up in cash 24/7.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw that. That is a really great innovation, I think, for that population. So then maybe tell us a little bit about who these people are. I mean, you mentioned the 35 million people who live paycheck to paycheck. Are we talking about the minimum age worker or someone earning $40,000, $50,000 a year? And who is the typical user of the PayActiv?
So it's a great question, and we've over the years formed a very good idea of who they are. They range from all the way from about $75,000 to $80,000 a year down to $30,000, $25,000 to $30,000. The poverty line in the U.S. is around $26,000, $28,000 a year. Okay, mm-hmm. So our users are, I wouldn't say evenly distributed between 30 to, let's say, 75,000. They are mostly packed in the, up to $60,000 a year, so $5,000 a month. So the first fallacy that exists is that these are, desperate people. That is not accurate. These are, regular people who just don't have savings, and they're living paycheck to paycheck, and a small discrepancy, misalignment, a $50 gap can cause them to get into very, very difficult situations, fee traps, debt traps, etc. So I would say somewhere between the $15 to $25 per hour range is the evenly distributed user base. Mm-hmm,
mm-hmm. Okay, so then I'm curious about when you're selling this to an employer, and obviously you said that the retention rate becomes better for the employer. Where are you finding pushback? I mean, what areas do employers think, well, their employees don't need this? I mean, what's the pushback you get?
So the pushback is, I always joke about it in some ways that I used to have a big whiteboard in my office called 50 Shades of No. And over the years, the 50 Shades of No has become much less. The biggest pushback in the early days was, just the fact that this is something new. And one reaction was, and you can say it is rooted in paternalism, one reaction was, well, I didn't grow up like this. Waiting to get paid is very good. It builds character. And if somebody takes money between paychecks. So that used to be the pushback. And today also the pushback in many cases is paternalistic, that it's a change from what employers are used to, but it's really not. There is really no major pushback other than the realization in most employers that it's not just about access to money. It is timely access to money, and it is all the other services that go with it. And the pushback now is more like, what else do you do? How is it financial wellness? And what are the other services? And that's where we are growing as well. Like we offer Uber and loading Amazon Cash and things like that, savings programs, budgeting. So it's really reimagination of what a lower income worker needs. And when you say that to the employer, they see the value of this. It's not just, I make payroll faster.
Right.
That still has pushback.
Mm-hmm. Got it. So then where do you make money? Is it, you talked about this $5 per payroll fee that the end user pays, but does the company pay something as well, or how does the finances work?
So the companies do pay if they choose to. They don't have to. And in order to bring this service in operation, there is no upfront or setup cost to a business. There's no cost to the business. PayActiv does all the heavy lifting. We are already partners with ADP, which is the largest payroll company in the country. We are partners with all the major payroll companies, either through APIs or through various types of file and other exchange mechanisms. We are also connected into all time and attendance systems, the big ones like Kronos. And so we work with an entire set of payroll companies, entire set of time and attendance companies. And those two, we take care of those expenses. The employer has no cost to pay us. Once we go live in a business, the employer can choose to pay the $5 fee or half of it, because that fee is only applied if you use it. Unlike most subscription services, if you don't use PayActiv in a particular pay period, you don't pay.
Okay. That makes sense. So I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about regulation. I've read that there's a bill in the state of California right now that's working its way through, that's talking about regulating what you're doing. There's also other states jumping on board and looking into what you're doing. Tell us a little bit about how you're engaging with the regulators and what what sort of their activities mean for you.
Yes, so the bill in California is called SB 472. And I don't know if you're aware of that.
Yep.
PayActiv is the original sponsor of the bill.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, so the way California is unique. In California, a company can sponsor the bill, and then a particular senator or somebody can then introduce it to the Senate.
Right.
So SB 472 is actually a landmark bill. It is it covers all the aspects of an earned wage access type of a service. All the stakeholders have been involved. So different companies, a dozen companies have contributed after it was originally brought in. And there are three key elements to it. First, the overarching reason to have a bill is to bring clarity in the industry, because this is a transaction or a transaction type which was unknown. You can say that in this day and age, something got invented which no one knew existed before. Mm-hmm. And particularly in an industry where lending and products like that are very well understood. It's kind of like a loanless loan. So in the bill, there are three types of caps to protect the consumer, which are in some ways inspired by the PayActiv model, but not necessarily. For instance, we have even more conservative metrics. For instance, the amount you can access. So it's 50% of your earned wages. The fee that you can charge, the bill mandates a fee which is less than $15 a month maximum. And the frequency of transactions that you can do, because they also want to avoid the addiction type of issues which can happen when people use these type of systems. So the bill is very landmark. I think our motivation to be involved in it was to bring clarity. There is a fundamental challenge being faced by lower income people. The biggest issue right now is that, we have three variables when it comes to wages. One is the level of salary, how much you're paid. And that's not something businesses can do much about, right? Or fintech businesses. Business can choose to pay more or less, but I can't do anything about that. Mm-hmm. The second variable is the structure of pay or how you're paid, which is taxation and variable compensation. Again, a company like in fintech can't do anything. But the timing of pay is a definite variable which has not been used, or when you are paid. So this bill actually brings clarity around how, if people access a certain amount of money between paychecks, when is it not a loan? That's the key question, right? At what point does it become a loan? Mm-hmm. Given this transaction is non-recourse. So for instance, if somebody accesses the money and doesn't, for some reason, that money does not come back to the provider, then there's no recourse. Secondly, the fee, the money, the fee that is charged has no connection with the amount that is accessed. So, you pay $5 not for the actual amount you access, it's for a service. So there are all kinds of things which require clarification. Mm-hmm. And California is leading the charge, and we are very hopeful that this bill will become the law very soon.
Okay. Yes, that's good luck on that one, because I think it's, I know that the states move quicker than the federal government, and hopefully that does move through and other states take California's lead. But anyway, just moving along, I want to ask you about, you've been a B corporation for a while, and we were just talking before we started about a public benefits corporation. So tell us what that means and why you've taken that route.
So there's a little bit of sort of history or backstory to it. When I started PayActiv, I needed motivation or some sort of purpose to do it. And the purpose was that this company was meant to make a difference in the lives of cash-strapped, financially stressed people. So we had a purpose statement, which was to alleviate financial stress for lower-income hourly workers by providing them access. So it always had a motivation or a purpose. Mm-hmm. So we were looking for some way to make that part of our overall, if it was in our individual DNA, we wanted it to be in the company's DNA as well. And we came across B Corps, which are B certified benefits corps. And about 3.5 years ago, we went ahead and went through the test and got certified with a very high score. And basically the certification says that you have, you consider people, profit, community, all those things as important aspects of your business. And since the work we do is a lot about social responsibility, etc., it was great for us. After 3 years of being a B Corp, the requirement is that now you have to go and change your articles of incorporation and actually put it in, your articles, which means you get board approval, full transparency, etc. So we became a public benefit corporation, which is how you change your articles of incorporation a few months ago. And as a public benefits corporation, now we can again get certified by B Corp. So we are not only a B Corp, but a very mature, multi-year B Corp, and now a public benefits corp.
Okay. So we're running out of time, but there's a couple more things I really want to get to. Firstly is, give us some sense of the scale you're at. What sort of volume of advances are you doing right now?
So we made an announcement last year that we've settled more than $1 billion. And this year it should be easily several order of magnitude more, maybe higher than 3.
Okay.
So that's a large amount of money, which is moving, $150, $200 at a time. Mm-hmm. And, the money goes, money comes back. So that's a big number. There was a report that came out from the ITA group, which said that the industry is close to somewhere between $15 to $18 billion a year right now. And it's growing. I would say that we are simply, you're just scratching the surface of this industry.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And you've also recently, I watched your movie, I guess you call it, that you made. It's like, I don't know, 18, 20 minutes long, very professionally produced. And you've also written a book, which we'll link to both these things in the show notes here. But so you really, what's the reason to sort of taking this, multimedia approach to your business?
I think it's all about educating the users, every kind of constituent. This is a fundamental change in how money moves. When you bring timing of pay, and my book is called "It's About Time: How Businesses Can Save the World One Worker at a Time," and the video documentary is called "It's About Time," and it's a double entendre because it's about time we did something, and it's about the time, the actual time. Because, Peter, the unit of work is time. Mm-hmm. And time is trapped in databases across the world. Putting a book out or a video documentary out is to, highlight that there is a massive issue, a blind spot globally. And people, during these periods where they are earning but not yet being paid, in that drought of cash drought or money drought, they are leaning on a lot of very, very predatory products. Mm-hmm. It shapes our society, it shapes their lives, it shapes their children's lives. So if you want it and you need it, you should be able to access it. And to get that point across to the world, multimedia, book, I'll even climb up on a big mountain and yell and scream and say, please, for God's sake, do something.
Right. Okay. So then, last question then. So what's coming down the track for PayActiv? What are you working on now that we might see in the next, 6 to 12 months?
So a lot of things. It's all about helping people get money, pay for things on time, plan, save, and that's the journey. We are kind of becoming the bank for the underserved. We are not a bank, but we are the bank for the underserved. We're bringing a lot of services. We already have, bill pay. We have an amazing savings tool, savings product. We have a prepaid Visa card. We have Uber directly connected to us. You can call Uber from the app without having money in the bank, just for using your hours. Amazon Cash is connected. So it's all about giving access. We want to provide access to affordable financial services at scale. And where that journey takes us, I don't know, but we want millions of people to enjoy the benefit of affordable financial services.
Okay, well, we'll have to leave it there. It's a noble cause, and I wish you all the best, Safwan, and thanks again for coming on the show today.
Thank you very much, Peter. Thank you.
Okay, see ya.
Bye.
I'm a big fan of the work that Safwan and his team at PayActiv are doing, as well as other companies in the industry. That I truly believe that earned wage access, and I wrote about this on Lend Academy a couple of weeks ago, that earned wage access should be an option for every single employee in this country, because this is not a loan. It's not like you're taking something out that you haven't earned. This is just getting access to what you have already earned and getting access to it in an easy and convenient way. And if we're able to do that, I think the payday lending industry, the bank overdraft industry, they would shrink dramatically. And I think companies like PayActiv are really doing a great job at enabling these people who are living paycheck to paycheck, enabling them to get money when they need it. Anyway, on that note, I will sign off. I very much appreciate you listening, and I'll catch you next time. Bye. Today's episode was sponsored by Lend It Fintech USA, the world's largest fintech event dedicated to lending and digital banking. It's happening on May 13th and 14th, 2020 at the Javits Center in New York. Lending and banking are converging, and Lend It Fintech immerses you in the most important trends of the day. Meet the people who matter, learn from the experts, and get business done. Lend It Fintech, lending and banking connected. Go to lendit.com/USA to register.